Hello, everyone, and welcome to my lunchtime chat that is sponsored by Our Black Hair Matters. And today we are going to talk about addressing the needs of textured hair, how consumer experiences can advance hair knowledge. So, before I get started, I just want to let you know that many people who follow me already know that I shout from the rooftops about how we need to move into 21st century solutions within the hair care industry. The textbooks that are used to educate cosmetologists do not have scientific references. Consumers are still unhappy about products they buy, which are mainly based on unsubstantiated claims. And then the many so called beauty gurus who influence what we buy don't have data to back up that it will work for us as consumers. So, as you know, it is time for a change. And just in case you are new to the platform, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Dr. Crystal Porter, and I am a hair scientist and owner of Main Insights, a company that conducts research to elevate the hair care industry. And this is a live online broadcast platform dedicated to elevating the Black hair care industry and empowering consumers and professionals with education that is driven and backed by scientific research. Those who know me know that I am passionate about moving the industry forward towards evidence-based hair care. And that is one of the main reasons why I also assist hair practitioners in getting data to validate their hair services. We are definitely in this together. So, for those of you who have joined, please put your name in the chat and let me know where you're from. If you are a hair practitioner, type in the number 1. If you are a consumer, you can put the number 2 in the chat. And if you are a researcher or scientist or technologist like me, then you can put the number 3 in the comments. And also, please share this broadcast. Don't be stingy. I'm sure that there are others who are frustrated with the lack of information available when it comes to caring for hair, and probably a lot of people who have wasted a lot of money, time, and resources just trying to figure things out on your own. So if you answered yes to any of those and it resonates with you, that is the real reason why we created the Our Black Hair Matters movement. And so one thing before I get started, I want to make sure that you have a valuable resource, and it is the biggest mistakes to avoid when caring for your curly hair. And so you can get it. There is a ticker at the bottom. You can go to ourblackhairmattersmovement.com. And then also, if you don't want to do your hair yourself, or you want to have a conversation with a vetted professional, you can schedule a 15-minute consultation by going to bit.ly OBHM Consult, and it's there right there on the screen. And you should be able to schedule an appointment to see someone who you can trust in having an educated conversation about your hair. All right, so without further ado, I am going to bring on my special guest. I'm really excited because it's not very often that I'm joined with any engineers in particular, but scientists or other dermatologists, people who are in the industry who can give their perspective from a professional level. And so this is Dr. Tahira Reid Smith, and she is an associate professor at the School of Mechanical Engineering at Purdue University and was a NASA visiting scholar for fall 2020. Her research involves the quantification and integration of human-centered considerations in engineering systems and/or the design process. Her research program has received funding from the National Science Foundation, Procter & Gamble, the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, and many others. Her projects that involve the intersection of diversity and mechanical engineering have been featured in media sources including National Geographic, NBC's Today Show, Essence Magazine, Reuters, National Public Radio, and many others. Dr. Reid Smith obtained her bachelor's and master's degrees in mechanical engineering from Rensselaer Polytech Institute, and she received a PhD in design science from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. So without any further ado, yay, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. So I have to say, when I first read your bio, I was like, wow, who knew that there was a design science curriculum? And
Yes,
yeah, I want to hear all about it. So, what made you get started in mechanical engineering?
it's oh boy, it's a funny story. Very long. It could be a long story, so I'm going to give you the short version. I will broadly say in high school, I knew that I wanted to do engineering. I thought I wanted to do biomedical engineering at first, but I switched to mechanical engineering because I learned that it was much broader and it allowed you to do a variety of things, whereas the other engineering disciplines were very narrowly focused. And so mechanical engineering is actually one of the more popular engineering disciplines that people pursue because of how broad it is. And a lot of mechanical engineers go off to do a number of things, whether they stay in engineering or go off to different fields. Like for example, I met a dentist once that had a mechanical engineering background, and so he used mechanical engineering terms to talk about things happening with your teeth. It's like, okay, there is an axial load being applied on your teeth because of this molar in the back that needs to be pulled out. And so it was nice to see him apply his engineering in the dental context. And, some go off to be lawyers and all that stuff. So I chose it because it was broad and I really enjoyed math coming out of high school. I was good at it and all of that too. Yes.
It's interesting you are talking about, the breadth in which the discipline can like carry. Well, you can go into different fields based on the foundational knowledge that you would get. And I wish I would have known. I think things happen as they should,
Yeah.
but I found out right before I was graduating with my bachelor's in biochemistry that I should have been a mechanical engineer. And I
Oh,
thought I
really?
was going to start all over. And it was my advisor that said, no, no, you need to just go to grad school and focus your studies on mechanics instead of starting all over. And so that's what I ended up doing. But
Okay.
yeah, it's a fascinating field.
Okay. Awesome. Biochemistry is wonderful too. It's awesome too.
Yeah, it's a great foundation for what I'm doing, but still, my passion is the mechanics. I like breaking stuff and understanding how it how things work.
Yes. That's
Yeah, so I'm really curious about how you married mechanical engineering with, trying to improve hair health. How did that come about?
so yeah, interesting. I love this question because growing up, let's just be real. If you are a black female, your hair is an event from childhood to as long to the present. My hair was like I was very conscious of my hair and my mother's hair care, and it was a process. She never used to use a blow dryer or heat on my hair, and she would wash it while it was wet and oh no, sorry, comb it while it was wet, braid it while it was wet, let it air dry, and then unpull those braids and then style it for school, right? So you can imagine naturalistas, that process of taking care of hair. So from a young age, hair has always been very much a big deal, and so when I became an engineer, and I had some other Black female friends who were also mechanical engineers, and it was very natural for us to kind of be sitting around and talking about engineering and our hair and making these connections between our discipline and our identity and culture. So so the first time I really stepped into doing something with it was as a graduate student, and I took a class and used hair as a project. I wanted the first class, it was some kind of biomaterial something. And it was more like writing up something. So I actually wrote up a paper, it was almost like a report and on hair stuff. And I believe I saw one of your publications. I believe one of yours was cited. It was almost like a literature review and just sort of framing some questions. And it was really fun because I mean, to be honest, most Black women who are educated in the sciences somehow they think about their hair, or the sciences and engineering, they think about their hair. So it was a great opportunity to take a class project and start thinking about it. Then I did another class on design optimization, and I just didn't care about the traditional um, types of things that a mechanical engineer would be trying to optimize. Like they were thinking of hardware, physical things, and I think someone did like a backhoe that digs into the ground. No, I wanted to do something with African American hair, and I had two teammates, and we had to each take ownership of a subsystem. One was styling, one was damage, one was, I think he called it lengthening processes. And we were trying to find equations to describe some of this. And we were like trying to come up with mathematical formulation for some of this. Styling is like, okay, how would you even formulate that? And I remember trying to come up with some kind of thing to ratios with braids and all that. And that's where it kind of started. But once I became a professor and had my own research lab where I can do what I want, then I was able to do a little more exploring. And the first project that I had um, a student work on was looking at this issue of heat damage, the natural hair movement. Women were talking about it all the time, probably still talking about heat damage and how to avoid it and what is it, and here's this and this and that, here's what I mixed up in the kitchen, here's what I did this, and it's all great. But I was like, man, I wonder if we could systematically study that. Like, can we do something? And it started with a student doing a master's project just to begin to explore. And then we eventually got funding from Procter and Gamble to do a bit more. We got things done, but still not at the level of depth that I would have liked to, and the level of breadth I would have liked to. So that is how I got my mechanical engineering and hair mixed together. Long
Wow.
run.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more next week when we dig in just a little bit about the some of the results that you found in this research. I think that's really interesting, and the implications for consumers to, learn from the science and the technology standpoint. So that's awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, so you held a mini like summit or a little forum where you're trying to do some collaboration, right?
Yes.
And so I'm excited about that. I think I talk about this all the time on this platform in terms of how we need to collaborate, how we need to work together to advance the industry. So I was super excited to see that that's something that you're interested in doing. And so one of the things that I wanted to explore a little bit is you mentioned that the citizen science platform or the methodologies in advancing knowledge in that particular way is valuable. So many people have never even heard of citizen science. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit and what your vision is?
Sure. And so I don't even think others have used the term citizen science in the context of hair. In engineering and at the National Science Foundation and places like that, you hear the term citizen science, where, I even have a colleague that did something with citizen science. It involved getting everyday people to maybe submit photos or observations in different areas. Let's say you're studying some kind of like architectural, like structural changes on buildings, and you just ask people to, hey, just take pictures of as you go in and out, and anything you notice, just share it. And then the researchers take it and make sense of what these citizen scientists are doing, because it's a lot of them, right? Could just if you get a call out for people to just submit photos, that's help, right? It's you the researcher can't necessarily capture all the views and perspectives that they see. So I began to use the terms just recently, citizen science, because it's we call it, a lot of people are calling it DIY, the do it yourself community. But I started to say citizen science for some of the individuals that I am seeing have regularly figured out regiments, methods, combinations of products, techniques, and they are seeing good evidence things that they're achieving at home that is not happening in the salon. Um, and no disrespect to the salon, there's something that's scientific to me. There is quite a bit of activity that I've seen women doing to figure out how to achieve certain healthy hair goals, length retention goals. And a lot of times we always hear, oh, this person was able to achieve, let's say, that length because, oh, they're mixed race or something. No, we are seeing women who are not, and they are achieving these things that historically we've been told, no, it can't happen, or you have to do it exactly this way for your hair to be healthy, all kinds of different things. And I feel like there's huge opportunity to work with citizen scientists to learn product capabilities. It's sort of, you designed your product a certain way, and then you intended it to be used a certain way. And so it's almost like a form of, like, not clinical trials, but my husband would call it fourth stage clinical trials, because he was in pharmaceuticals, so he knows all about that stuff. And so yeah, it's how are people using it and what kind of effects? I mean, can you imagine if there was a systematic way to invite people to, hey, submit what you are doing, how you're doing it, what products, what amount, and what are you learning? And so, anyhow, let me just pause because I think I'm a little excited about that area and just that possibility.
I agree 100%. And it's the foundation. So I have a research partner, Dr. Jared Hampton Marcel, and he and I have been, collecting data from consumers and utilizing that data, but giving them unique or information that is unique to them. And so we're
Yeah.
able to make some sense out of it based on, having a pool of data, but they get personalized information that they can use to make informed decisions. So that's right in line with exactly what you're talking about. And so,
Yes.
yeah, I see things moving in the right direction.
That's good.
Yeah. So, I want to get your perspective in terms of how do you think the hair industry can evolve considering advancements within research protocols? Because what I have found or have experience with is there's a mix match between how we view things in a very systematic way, but then how consumers describe them.
Yes. Yes. Very true.
Yeah, so how do you think, collaboration in this type of citizen research can really help with that?
There's a lot that I see happening in the traditional sciences realm, right? Like things that the National Science Foundation would fund. The Science Foundation would not necessarily fund research that is based on hair only. They focus on fundamental science. So if you wanted to write a grant for the National Science Foundation, I remember me and my collaborator, we were trying to figure out ways that we could get funding. And it was sort of like, well, we may need to talk about biological fibers and look at a suite of fibers and not just be limited to hair, because they want to fund fundamental science. So I can't just say, hey, we're going to write a grant that is about the science of hair. No. Um, and so the issue is this: I see so much happening on that side that is relevant for the hair care industry, but it's like, how do we, so all of that citizen science, even things like teacher education, like I mean, there's so many parallels. There are entire grant proposals that you could write on, say, bringing teachers in over the summer and teaching them some STEM principles they could bring back to the classroom. There are so many things that are out there, that fits traditional STEM, that is equally applicable to hair care. I could imagine if we were able to write and structure, say, an NSF type grant, I could easily see a line item where you bring in, say, some stylist, and you bring in some, let's say, key citizen scientists, influencers that are more than just a website, but they are doing things decades long and seeing results and influencing others to try it, and they're getting similar results or at least adapting for their purpose, et cetera. And so I just could imagine if there was and everything with research is about funding. There's so much that could be done, but it's sort of, you need the funding to do it. Otherwise, yeah, especially in my position as a professor, like it's very tricky to just be able to say, I'm just going to do this project, but where's the funding coming from to support the team that would be doing that work? So so just to summarize, there's just some really neat things that could be happening, and we just need to be creative to find the ways to get it done, because hair care is, I mean, we know it's a billion-dollar industry, and yet we know there's so much to be done to do it right and to capture our needs in the way they need to be captured.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I can see how you needing hair and resources, well, money, funding, can really play a part. And I think the more information we put out there, the more we'll have opportunities to fund it. One thing that we rarely think about is, especially in academia, we oftentimes think about how we need to apply for grants and get money that way. But I recently got a nice size external foundational grant that someone saw the work I was doing, liked it. It's the end of the year, and they were like, I want to support it. And I was like,
Wow,
what?
that is awesome.
It is awesome and totally unexpected. So I feel very blessed to have had that opportunity. But it opens up your eyes
Yeah,
to know that that probably wasn't the only person out there who would be willing to do that. So we need to take that into consideration as well
sure.
and be
Yeah,
very purposeful in funding our research.
yes, yes. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, all right. So I decided I wanted to make this a two-parter because I think it's good to lay the foundation in terms of, collaboration and what we can do. So my next question is there an opportunity for others who are interested in really working in this area? Is there a way for others to collaborate? And if so, how would that happen?
Sure. If there are hair care or sort of personal care, beauty care, any industries out there that want to collaborate, there's certainly opportunities, especially through Purdue University. There's competitive research. There's these different types of mechanisms to collaborate. But if there's more questions, I invite people to email me at tahira at purdue.edu, Tahira at purdue.edu, to kind of learn what possibilities are out there. And then I'm also looking at seeing how, so like, say, small businesses or small companies, what are some creative ways to engage them in collaborative opportunities as well. So also feel free to email me there.
Okay, so you broke up a little bit, but
Oh,
I'm going to make sure in part two that we get all the information that you shared because you broke up a little bit. And so I
okay,
want to make sure that people can get all the information. But we have another chance because, like I said, I want to dive a little bit more into, the actual work that you've done and some of the results that you've gotten. Even though it's a start, I think it's still useful information for people to know. So
okay.
thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
So without further ado, we're going to wrap this up. But I also want you to know that we'll have a part two. So make sure you tune in for next week. We're going to dive into the implications of the type of work that she's done. And so thank you so much, Dr. Tahira.
Thank you
Reid
for having me.
Smith. You know what? I'm so used to saying your name without the Smith. So I'm so excited that you are expanding your family. You're now married.
Thank
And
you.
so, yeah, thank you so much for joining. And we will see you for part two. And thank you guys for joining as always. And remember that our Black hair matters. And as always, take care and love your hair. Bye bye.